Episode 121, Jade's Exclusive Position. Ashley fiercely pierced Taylor's hand and walked to the corner of the room. She kept pinching Taylor's hand until it was red, but Taylor didn't dare to resist. She could only grit her teeth and endure the pain. "Ashley, what happened to you?" Taylor looked at her humbly. "What's wrong? How dare you ask me what's wrong? How do you do things? Didn't I tell you to give her all of it? How did she recover so quickly? She should have been in the hospital for 3 or 4 days. It should be serious." Ashley looked upset and vicious. Her voice was loud. Taylor looked around very nervously, afraid that they'd be discovered. Fortunately, there was no one in the dressing room, and they were all alone in the corner. No one should have heard what they said. Taylor rubbed her arm, which was red from being pinched, and said anxiously, "Ashley, I did what you said. I put it all on her lunch. I don't know what's going on either. Was there not enough of the drug?" She was afraid that Jade would die, so she didn't pour all the drug into Jade's food. She thought that Jade would have been seriously hospitalized. That would have given the director a chance to choose a new female lead. It could also destroy Jade's image. She didn't expect Jade to recover after only 1 night of rest. It was really strange. From then on, her meals were all personally prepared by her manager separately from everyone else's meals. That way, no one could get close to her food. It would be difficult for them to drug her again. Plus, after all that had happened, Jade would be on her guard. "You're useless. You couldn't even drug her properly. What else can I let you do?" Ashley looked at Taylor angrily. If Taylor wasn't still useful, she wouldn't work with her anymore. Ashley thought that she was simply too noble to work with someone like Taylor. Taylor saw that Ashley was angry and immediately tried to smooth things over. She said, "All right, Ashley, don't be angry. I'll promise to listen to you next time." Ashley had a sinister look in her eyes. She said, "Looks like I'll have to think of another way." There was no way that she was going to allow Jade to stay and act as the female lead and flaunt it in front of her. That was absolutely impossible. The staff suddenly ran to the dressing room and said, "Are you guys ready? It's your turn." Taylor was shocked. She quickly turned her head nervously and said, "Okay, we'll be right there." As she spoke, she patted her chest and found that he had suddenly come in. She let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, no one had heard their conversation. Ashley stared unhappily at Jade. Why did Jade have a specialized makeup artist and such an exclusive position? They could only hide in the corner with their unskilled makeup artists. It was too unfair. And on top of that, she was only playing a small role. Ashley tightly held her hand and hatred instantly appeared in her eyes. She felt that the female lead in The Decadent Lady must be hers. Taylor silently followed behind her and didn't speak anymore. Her eyes looked helpless. "All right, everyone, take a break. The director said to treat everyone to a drink, but it's very hard to get good drinks here." Just as they were about to go out, the staff suddenly ran in and brought them tea. They had been eating countryside food for the last few days. It was a very rare experience for them to have such delicious drinks. Ashley and Taylor weren't missing any opportunities and immediately went up to take the tea. After the staff had finished distributing the tea, they took the last cup to Jade and quietly said to her, "Miss Winslet, this was specially prepared for you by a gentleman." She got different tea than the others. Everyone else had cheap plastic cups, but Jade's was served in a thermos cup, and it was an especially beautiful thermos cup. When she opened it, she smelled the fragrance of the tea. It was still steaming. Jade looked at the warm tea and felt a surge of warmth in her heart. Just as she was about to ask who had prepared it, the staff had already left. Why was it specially prepared for her? Who was it? Jade was excited and took a sip. She found the taste very familiar, and it didn't look like it was bought outside. The tea in the thermos was very pure and gave her a familiar feeling. She seemed to have had this kind of tea at home. Dario had brewed it for her to drink at home. Could it be that the staff members were talking about Dario? "This tea tastes really good." Taylor happily sipped the tea, but thought that Jade's tea seemed to be of higher quality. She felt a little envious. Since Jade was the female lead, she was treated differently from the others. "You're a bumpkin, isn't she just drinking tea?" Although Ashley said so, she drank her tea very quickly and didn't notice anything strange at all. The two of them started acting, but for some reason, when they were halfway through filming, both of them suddenly felt sharp pains in their stomachs. The film crew had no choice but to shoot other scenes first because Taylor and Ashley were fighting for the toilet. Ashley's stomach hurt, but she still wanted to continue filming. The result was very bad. They were called all NG shots, not good for anything. The other actors, who were waiting to start filming, all cried out and told the two of them to get lost. Because Ashley and Taylor only had small roles, the team could easily find substitutes. The director very decisively changed their roles. He said that he would wait for them to recover and still let them act in other roles. Ashley really wanted to protest, but even the director had asked her to leave. That meant that there was no chance. She'd gone through great difficulty to enter this crew. And now she was unwilling to leave this opportunity. But her stomach really hurt. In the end, the two of them had to return to their rooms. Because of their stomachs, they could no longer film. They couldn't make any money that day. Ashley didn't care. She didn't act to earn money, but Taylor was very sad because her story was different. Jade saw Ashley and Taylor and felt a lingering fear in her stomach. She was afraid that the same thing would happen to her. The two of them suddenly had diarrhea, which also made her feel a trace of doubt in her heart. She quietly looked at the tea that the two of them had drunk, as if she knew something. At noon, Jade was about to go and get some lunch when Caroline handed her an exquisite lunchbox, saying that she wanted her to eat it. "Caroline, this isn't good, right?" She wanted to say that she was the only one eating an especially prepared lunch. It made her feel a little embarrassed. "You should eat it, since I brought it for you." Caroline coldly handed the lunchbox to Jade. "Oh." Jade was afraid that Caroline would get angry, so she obediently took the lunchbox from her hands and found a hidden place to eat. She didn't want to be seen. When she opened the lunchbox and tasted the first bite, she almost slapped herself. How could she have almost rejected such good food? It was very delicious, and it was as beautiful as a work of art. It also gave her a familiar feeling. Episode 122. Will Jade shoot the kissing scenes? Although the feeling was familiar, it was also different. The feeling the lunch gave her was different from the feeling she got from the tea. She could tell that Dario hadn't prepared it. The method was very similar, as if they had deliberately imitated Dario, but the feeling she had was really strange. Why would they imitate his technique? Did they want to please her? Jade tried not to think too much about it. She even felt that she was thinking too much. Who would want to please her? She quickly finished her meal. Caroline took the empty lunchbox and lightly asked, "How was the food?" Jade nodded with satisfaction and said, "It was very delicious. A chef must have made it." Although Jade was telling the truth, there was one thing she didn't say. She liked Dario's cooking better. "I'm glad that you liked it." Caroline wasn't just talking about the chef in her heart, but his stature. A senior mechanic was brought in from the biggest hotel in Washington. He was now in charge of Jade's food. However, if Jade didn't like the food that he cooked, Dario would tell him to scram. Caroline told Lucas everything about Jade's reaction to her lunch. In Washington, Lucas was standing in Dario's office. He glanced at Dario, who was working. Then he expressionlessly read a text message. "Caroline said Miss Winslet was very satisfied with the food." "Yes," Dario said without looking up. "Seems like you're serious. You've even arranged for your own mentor to be given to Miss Winslet. I just don't know if Mr. Foster will continue to look for the person he's been looking for," Lucas said seriously. The mentor was an advanced chef, the one who taught Dario how to cook. That was why Jade felt that their cooking tasted so similar, but there was still a clear difference. If the master chef knew that Jade thought that Dario cooked better than him, he would probably be very angry. When Lucas mentioned the woman he'd been looking for over the past 5 years, Dario's expression changed immediately. His eyes became extremely dark, and his face had no expression. It was hard to tell whether he was happy or worried, but the cold aura of his body was enough to make anyone's heart turn cold. Even Lucas didn't dare to act rashly in front of him. After a long time, Dario slowly opened his mouth. His tone was extremely cold as he said, "What? Don't you have no work? Are you bored of your duties?" When Jade wasn't around, Dario seemed to be even colder. He was emotionless to everyone. When his co-workers saw his face during their meeting, they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Lucas asked coldly, "Do you think I'm bored?" At that moment, Lucas, who had never been emotional, was almost angered. He held back the anger in his heart. When faced with Dario's dark eyes, he felt almost as powerful as Dario. "Yeah, I'm quite free. I'm just a driver. I work part-time as a bodyguard and also look for a chef. Besides that, I work part-time as a detective and a fighter. Mr. Foster, you're so rich. Can't you find a few more people? Lucas was very dissatisfied. It seemed to him that ever since Jade appeared, he'd been even busier than Dario. Where was the bodyguard Dario had promised? Dario stared at Lucas with a sharp gaze and pursed his lips. He didn't say anything. In his heart, he felt that he couldn't trust anyone else. If you're so busy, why are you still here with me? Have you finished what I asked you to do? Dario asked bluntly. Lucas wondered. What a joke. Did he spend so much money he couldn't just hire a driver, couldn't he? It's about time, I just don't know. Mr. Foster wanted to see the bodies of the two women. Or do you want to see them half crippled? Dario glanced at him indifferently and didn't say anything. Lucas immediately said, All right, I understand what you mean, goodbye. When he finished speaking, he immediately slammed the door and left. It seemed like Mr. Foster was trying to work him to death. This was also Dario's favourite method to make someone work. Lucas didn't like to drug people. He preferred to hit people directly. It would be better to call David Swan for this kind of thing. He would probably be very interested. Jade, who was putting on makeup, held her phone uneasily. She kept thinking about the kissing scene that was going to be filmed that day. Should she tell Mr. Foster in advance? She was his wife now, no matter what, and she didn't know if he would mind her shooting kissing scenes. If only she had asked him the day before. Jade felt very conflicted. In the end, she bit her lower lip and made up her mind to not shoot with Michael Porter. She wanted to discuss with the director if she could fake the kiss. She felt that she wouldn't accept even a light kissing scene. Even if she imagined he was Dario, it wouldn't do. Even if she was asked to leave the crew, she wouldn't hesitate to do so. Besides, there were other actors who wouldn't shoot kissing or bed scenes. It was just that she didn't have the qualifications, nor did she have the capital. All right, we're starting now. Action. The scene that they were going to shoot that day involved Jade's character. After being abandoned, she met the male lead and some things happened. The plot involved her accidentally kissing someone. At that moment, Jade felt her heart jump, and she became extremely nervous. Michael Porter, on the other hand, looked very calm. He was no different from normal. After all, he was a professional actor and was indifferent. Just when the director gave the signal to start filming, it was as if he had entered the role. Ruby, I finally found you. Michael held Jade's hand tightly. His eyes were full of eagerness and concern. Why did you come to me? Didn't I say that? I don't like you. Jade looked at his somewhat dispirited face with heartache, and her eyes were filled with deep affection. She really wanted to escape, but she felt some attachment to him and reluctance to part with him. They didn't have many actions in this scene, but their expressions were very rich. Although she was a newcomer, Jade was just as talented as Michael. The director was very satisfied with their performance. He nodded slightly and felt that he had chosen the right person. Ruby, what are you talking about? Promise me that you won't leave again, okay? Michael looked at her with heartache. He really couldn't understand why she would suddenly leave him. Jade's eyes were full of pain and determination. She must leave him. No, I told you. Why are you still pestering me? I don't love you. I don't love you at all. I've had a goal from the beginning, and now I've achieved my goal. Jerry, don't you understand? I've been using you all along. Jade screamed at the top of her lungs. Although she wasn't that loud, she was loud enough to be heard, and her eyes began to turn red. Everyone watching felt their hearts ache. Episode 123. Jade sighed in relief. The next step, when she was about to leave, she hit the rock. But thanks to Michael's timely action, she fell heavily into his arms and accidentally sent her lips up. It was a good show between them, but at that moment, the director suddenly shouted, "Cut!" Jade thought that she'd done something wrong. She was extremely nervous and looked at the director carefully. She didn't expect that the director only wanted to tell them about the plot. You both performed really well and were very invested. Jade, you must remember to accidentally jump into his arms and kiss him. Remember to throw yourself at him. Do you understand? And when you push Michael down, you have to be natural. It will be best if you really throw yourself. Let Michael hug you again, the director said seriously. Jade was shocked when she heard him. She said, "What? Do you want me to invest more? What should I do?" She was confused. She wanted to ask the director if they could use a substitute. But Caroline, who was sitting at the table, suddenly went up to the director and said, "Director, Jade is still a newcomer. She cannot shoot a kissing scene right now. Do you think this scene can be filmed using other methods?" The director was shocked for a moment when he heard Caroline's words. Then he said, "No, this scene must be very intimate. It's the only way to achieve the effect we're looking for." The director then looked at Jade meaningfully and said, "Didn't I tell you yesterday that I wanted you to develop your relationship with Michael beforehand? As an actor, if you can't even overcome a hurdle like this, how do you expect to film this movie?" Jade felt a little ashamed when she heard this, and there were still quite a few kissing scenes in the next movie. If she couldn't continue filming that day, what would she do in the future? She suddenly felt that she had let the director down, and she didn't want to disappoint him. She wanted him to think that he had misjudged her, but how could Jade accept being intimate with an unfamiliar man? Caroline saw how firm the director's attitude was and didn't say anything else. She just quickly dialed a number on her phone. "I'll give you 2 minutes to prepare." After the director said those words coldly, he sat at the side. "Just for a few seconds, close your eyes and pounce over for a kiss. It'll be over very quickly. I'll go brush my teeth if you want," Michael said politely from the side. His signature smile was still on his face. Jade felt even more guilty. Michael was indeed a gentleman. He didn't have the airs of a celebrity. No wonder he was so popular with female fans. If it wasn't for Dario, she thought she would be very excited to spend time with Michael. It was hard to believe that Michael, who was famous all over the world, was so modest. She hesitated. Jade felt a little insensible. "Jade, I hope you don't disappoint me." 2 minutes later, the director said this to Jade in a sincere tone. Her heart tightened. She didn't know what to do. When she walked to the set, she suddenly felt as if she was carrying a heavy burden on her shoulders. "Everyone, get ready!" Just as the director was about to shout, "Action!" his phone suddenly rang. He didn't want to answer it, but when he saw the number, his face darkened. To everyone on the scene, he said, "Wait a moment." Then he went to answer the phone. He didn't expect the person who called to be one of the investors for the TV series. After the caller began speaking, the director's expression instantly changed, and his eyes immediately darkened. "Why do you suddenly want to change the script? There's no need to change it that much. All you needed to do was delete the intimate scenes. Why didn't you delete them? To express his pure feelings? Change it to a point of purity?" As the director finished speaking, his expression only became worse. In the end, he didn't know what the caller had said. The director could only nod his head vigorously without any hesitation. He could only agree, but in his heart, he was already cursing that damn investor. Pure love? Which pure love film didn't have kissing scenes now? He took a deep breath and hung up the phone. He was stunned for a few minutes and looked like he was lost in thought. He only reacted when his staff members came over to remind him, "Director, are we going to start filming? Ask the scriptwriter to come over and delete all the intimate scenes. Change the scene we're filming now first, then we'll shoot again," the director said expressionlessly. He was clearly very dissatisfied with this outcome. Without a passionate scene, a television drama's popularity would definitely be halved. However, if he didn't do what the investor said, they would have to stop filming. It seemed that he could only focus on the plot from top to bottom. "You guys go and rest. We'll start filming after the scriptwriter changes the script." When the director finished speaking, Jade finally heaved a sigh of relief. She felt very lucky. That call came just in time. If the investor hadn't called, she really didn't know what she would have done. "You've got your wish. You don't need to shoot a kissing scene with me," Michael said as he suddenly moved closer to her. Jade lowered her head in embarrassment and even took a step back as if she didn't want to get too close to him. Michael noticed that she moved away. "Actually, I'm not ready yet. Otherwise, sooner or later, I would have NG. Fortunately, I deleted it." Jade smiled slightly and felt happy in her heart. Now she didn't need to worry about Mr. Foster getting angry, and she wouldn't feel guilty. Next time, she would be able to fully devote herself to the movie. Jade was about to go and rest when Michael lifted the corner of his beautiful lips and revealed a meaningful smile. He leaned over to her ear and said softly, "What a pity, Miss Winslet. You had a chance to become famous. Actresses who have kissed me before are now all A-list stars." When Michael said these words, he was very close to her. Jade could even feel his breath against her ear. It made her feel a little itchy. She immediately took a step back and kept her distance from him. Michael had a smile on his face, and movement didn't seem to make him feel awkward. But he was interested in Jade. It was the first time a woman had stepped back when he approached her. He found that interesting. Jade bowed to him. "I know Mr. Jin is very famous, but he might not be able to reach that height in my life. I believe hard work leads to results. I'm willing to walk forward step by step." Jade was very serious. She knew that there was a shortcut in the entertainment industry. Just as Michael said, shooting a kissing scene with him would cause the media to spread rumors. If she were connected with a famous person, she would be in the headlines and would become an actor that everyone knew. But Jade didn't want this method to become famous. She just wanted to film well and do what she wanted to do. Episode 124. Did Dario visit her last night? Despite suddenly having to change the script and rearrange the plot, they couldn't delay their progress. They were forced to work late, and Jade was shooting for the whole day. She was so tired that she felt like her body was about to fall apart. When she finished work that night, she was incredibly tired. As they finished filming, she looked at the time and found that it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. She didn't expect to be so tired after the first day of filming. The moment she returned to her room, she resisted the urge to take off her makeup and take a bath. Just before she was about to go to sleep, she couldn't help but take out her phone and look at it. She didn't see a call or a text message from the number she had expected. She suddenly felt a little disappointed. She wanted to make a phone call, but she thought that it was already too late. He should have already gone to sleep, and she didn't have the nerve to disturb him. She sent him a text message and told him about what happened that day. She then went to sleep in a daze. She didn't know if he would see it that night or not. An hour later, a familiar figure quietly walked into her room and gently sat down beside her. He was afraid to wake her up. Jade was already very tired, but she was still frowning when she fell asleep. She seemed to be having a very uneasy sleep. Dario, who was sitting on the bed, immediately took off his clothes and laid down beside her. Jade seemed to notice something and subconsciously rolled over into his warm embrace. Her tightly knitted brows completely relaxed. Seeing her small movements, a smile appeared in Dario's tired eyes. But when he saw Jade's haggard face, he felt a surge of pain in his heart. He didn't expect that she would have been so busy that day. He heard that she didn't have a chance to rest very much during the day. She must be exhausted. He wished that she could stay at home and be his little princess. However, he didn't want to stop her from pursuing her dreams. If he did that, Jade would lose her glory. So, he could only do his best to let her do what she liked and to secretly protect her. Dario didn't stay for long because he had spent a lot of time with Jade at home over the last few days. To spend time with her, he didn't hesitate to travel back and forth for 2 hours. When he received her text message, he immediately rushed over. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Dario kissed Jade's delicate lips a few times before he reluctantly left. When he left, his movements were very light. Jade was still sleeping, and she didn't even feel that he had come. In the hotel, Dario knocked on the window and woke up Lucas, who was still sleeping. Lucas opened his eyes in a daze and sleepily looked at Dario. He looked at the time and opened the window. He said lightly, "You said that you wanted to go back and forth for more than 2 hours just to see the sunrise?" Dario had made up that excuse for Lucas. Dario didn't say anything. He just calmly took the car keys and sat in the driver's seat. When he was just about to start driving, Lucas immediately woke up and hurriedly said, "Let me drive." Dario looked at his bloodshot eyes and said coldly, "No need, I'm afraid of death." He then stepped on the accelerator and drove to Washington. He wanted to rush back before 8 o'clock because he had an important meeting to attend. Lucas was overwhelmed by the favor and yawned. He couldn't help but narrow his eyes after being forced to wake up. Lucas calculated that the drive would take more than 4 hours, and Jade would still be asleep. She didn't know that he was there at all. So why did Dario come there, and why was he leaving without meeting her properly? Lucas looked at Dario, who was driving seriously. He already had an answer in his heart. Jade originally wanted to get up early to read the script. She even specially set the alarm clock. She didn't expect that she would sleep until she woke up naturally. She slept almost until 9 o'clock, and no one came to call her. She looked at her phone and felt that something was a little strange. Could it be that her phone's alarm clock wasn't working again? Jade looked at the bed in confusion. She couldn't help but touch the spot beside her. The weather was cold as she had expected, but it seemed that someone had been there during the night, since she slept very peacefully. The spot beside her was also very warm. Could it be that Dario had come? But how could that be? He should still be in Washington. How could he have come here? How could anyone be so stupid? He came all the way here. She rushed back early in the morning and then turned on her phone. She looked at it. She still hadn't received any messages or calls, and he hadn't replied to the messages she sent the night before. Jade pouted and knocked hard on her phone. She muttered sadly. He didn't reply. He didn't know that she was on the phone either. Could he have forgotten about me? He must be too busy with work. Or maybe he hasn't woken up yet. That must be it. Just as she was about to wash up, there was a knock at the door. She suddenly felt a burst of joy in her heart. She had a trace of anticipation and excitement. But when she saw the person at the door, she nodded slightly in embarrassment. She politely said, "Caroline, morning." "You aren't up yet?" I just got up." "Hurry up." "I'll go wash my face right away." Jade opened the door and let Caroline in. She cleaned herself up as quickly as possible and then went out with Caroline. Jade followed behind Caroline. The small hotel had 2 flights of stairs. One of them was relatively close, but for some reason, Caroline brought her to the innermost stairs. Although Jade was a little puzzled, she didn't say anything. When she walked inside, a heart-wrenching roar shocked her. She thought that something had happened. When she listened carefully, she heard a familiar voice. She found that Ashley and Taylor seemed to be quarreling there. But their quarrel had nothing to do with her. Just when Jade was about to leave, Caroline stopped moving. The sounds were so loud that some people who had still been sleeping came out. About a dozen people were living on the 2nd floor, and they all came out to see what was going on. Jade couldn't help but wonder whether Caroline also wanted to watch the show. But Jade thought that she wasn't that kind of person. In other words, there must have been other reasons. Jade was very puzzled. Caroline took another step forward and stood at the door of the 2 people's room. There was no expression on her face, and Jade also followed. She found that the door of the 2 people's room was open. They were not only yelling, but were starting to fight. The fight was getting very intense. They were both still in their pajamas with disheveled hair. They both looked very embarrassed. Taylor looked the worst. Her body was pinch red, but Jade didn't sympathize with them at all. Jade thought that their relationship had always been very good. She hadn't expected to see them fighting that day. Episode 125. Enough of your misbehavior. You damn girl. Are you tired of living? Speak. Did you put the rest of the drug in my rice? After all the effort I put in to get this role, you actually dared to drug me? Ashley grabbed Taylor's arm and scolded her angrily. At first, Taylor didn't resist and only tried to dodge Ashley. But then her grip became too powerful. She pushed Ashley hard but didn't expect her to fall to the ground. A war was about to start between them, and Ashley pinched her even harder. Taylor, who had always been weak, couldn't help but try to resist. It was clearly you who drugged me and made my stomach hurt. Didn't you know that I had diarrhea for the whole day yesterday? At that moment, Jade realized that they both didn't look very well. She was surprised that they actually still had the strength to fight. It was really inconceivable. The words drug and stomach pain lingered in Jade's mind. Could her stomach pain the other day have had something to do with the 2 of them? As they fought, Ashley saw Jade standing at the door. Her anger instantly rose. Jade, it's all your fault. If it wasn't for you, how could I have become like this? How can you dare to show your face here? Ashley angrily rushed forward and actually wanted to hit her. Jade frowned and took a step back. Just as she wanted to leave, Caroline suddenly stood in front of Ashley and looked at her coldly with a sharp gaze. She warned, "Try it, if you dare. I think you don't want to be part of the Milliken agency anymore. Someone like you can't touch us." Ashley's expression changed drastically when she heard the word Milliken. She was already dumbfounded when she found out that Jade was the female lead in The Decadent Lady. After hearing Caroline say that she was actually from Milliken, she found it even more unbelievable. She simply couldn't believe it. How is this possible? How could she be from Milliken? Milliken was the dream of all artists. It was also very difficult to enter. It was very difficult for even the best actors to join the Milliken agency. The jealousy in Ashley's heart increased by a few more points. When she saw Caroline protecting Jade, she knew that Caroline wasn't lying. Everyone knew that Caroline was a famous manager in the industry and that the artists she brought in were all very popular. When Taylor heard the conversation, her face was also full of shock. She didn't expect Jade to suddenly become so powerful. Jade had become the female lead and entered Milliken. It was as if she was cheating. Taylor turned around and her eyes changed. She immediately rushed in front and pushed Ashley away. She said anxiously, "Jade, do you know why you were sick the other day? It wasn't because of the water or because you ate something bad. It was because someone gave you laxatives." After speaking, Taylor turned her gaze to Ashley. It was obvious that she was hinting that the person who drugged Jade was Ashley. "Bitch, why are you looking at me? Wasn't it you who drugged her?" Ashley wanted to slap Taylor and was just about to raise her hand when Taylor reached out just in time and firmly pinched her wrist. Taylor's strength was actually greater than Ashley's. Wanting to resist was said to be an easy thing. It was just that Ashley was normally more afraid of her and didn't even try to resist, so it made Taylor even more arrogant, making Ashley think that she was really powerful. Ashley wanted to fiercely hit Taylor but found that her hand was firmly held and couldn't move. The anger on her face deepened. "Taylor, you want to rebel? Let go of me, you bitch." Ashley scolded and glared at her. When Taylor heard Ashley call her names, she felt even more unhappy. She had suffered so much because of Ashley. She'd always worked for Ashley, but Ashley had never treated her as a friend. Instead, she'd always bullied Taylor and kept Taylor by her side. It was only to satisfy her vanity. Taylor followed her every day because Ashley's family had money and she wanted to take advantage of that. But she really couldn't bear it anymore. She hadn't expected that Ashley would be so vicious that she wouldn't even let her friends go. Ashley had caused her to have diarrhea for an entire day. It was so bad that she almost collapsed. She wouldn't help her do anything anymore. Taylor was so mad that she decided to expose everything. Taylor's pair of fierce eyes stared straight at Ashley. For a moment, she felt some fear in her heart. "It's true. The drug was given by me, but it was you who made me do it. You were the mastermind, and you still wanted to give her the rest of the drug. You wanted to kill Jade." "I think you're tired of living." "I was the mastermind." "Fine. You actually said that I was the mastermind. Then what were you? You were an accomplice. Are you going to shirk your responsibility? Dream on." Ashley kicked her hard on the knee. Taylor didn't notice the movement of Ashley's foot until it was too late. She was kicked hard on the knee. She fell to the ground and screamed. "Ah, it hurts." She covered her aching knees, bared her teeth, and looked at her. After shaking for a while, she gritted her teeth and stood up to push Ashley onto the ground. In her anger, she used her teeth to bite Ashley's shoulder. Ashley immediately let out a miserable cry and tried to push her away. But Taylor's teeth kept biting her shoulder and she wasn't willing to let go. Blood was about to flow out. At that moment, Taylor looked at her miserable appearance and her heart was happy. She just wanted to make Ashley suffer and give her a good taste of what she'd experienced. "Yes, I was an accomplice. I just wanted to drag you down with me." Taylor stared at her and reached out her hand to grab Ashley's throat. But Ashley fiercely kicked her away. Her eyes were red as she roared. "Taylor, you're crazy. Hurry up and die. You've gained so many good things by my side. You actually dare to hit me? You've forgotten how you used to suck up to me, you coward." "Good stuff. You're really good to me. You're really my good friend." As Ashley spoke, Taylor became even more furious. Ashley had given her some things, but they were all secondhand goods that she didn't want or things that she hated, while Ashley got some brand new goods to satisfy her vanity. Taylor even accompanied her like a dog at her mercy. Taylor had had enough of that kind of life. "Get lost, you filthy thing. You only have the role of a minor character, and you went to bed with the scriptwriter." Ashley looked at her fiercely. She was really angry that such a world-shaking piece of news had actually broken out. When the dozens of people who were watching this heard this news, they immediately sighed. Some of them looked at her with disdain, and others looked at her with sympathy and laughed at her stupidity. But for most of them, watching them hurt each other was like watching a show. Jade maintained her calm from the beginning until the end. There was no expression on her face. Episode 126. The Human Heart is Evil. When Taylor heard Ashley mention her relations with the scriptwriter and felt her burning gaze, she wished that she could immediately find a place to hide. She felt like her body had been seen by someone. Taylor reacted by grabbing Ashley's throat. "So what? Didn't you give the assistant director a large sum of money? You're just a small character. You're jealous that Jade is the female lead in The Decadent Lady. You asked me to drug her so that the director would replace her. Your plan was wrong. No matter how rich you are, you'll only play trash roles for as long as you live." Jade revealed a cold smile and took a step back. She thought that there was no point in continuing to watch because she had already learned the most important points. The surrounding people excitedly talked and even smiled as they watched them fight. Some even took photos and posted them on social media. Because of the news, the two of them would probably become popular for a while. But it would be difficult for them to continue working in the entertainment industry. After such a big scandal, who would invite them? "Let's go," Caroline said coldly. Her face showed no meaning. Jade nodded and looked coldly at the two women in front of her. For a moment, she didn't know what was wrong. The hatred in her heart seemed to have lessened a lot. What she felt the most now was sadness. Taylor and Ashley were so sad. One offered her body, and the other offered her wealth. They even betrayed their classmates. In the end, things could only go badly for them. She pitied them for reaching such a miserable state, but she didn't sympathize with them because they deserved it. Jade followed Caroline's footsteps closely. After a long time, she took a deep breath and seriously said to her, "Thank you, Caroline." Now she finally understood why Caroline didn't approach her at the beginning and especially took her to watch the two women fight. Furthermore, she deliberately stopped there. Caroline wanted to let Jade see clearly who wanted to harm her. In the beginning, she thought that Caroline was very cold and heartless. But ever since the last time Caroline found Amelia Stevens bullying Jade, Jade knew that Caroline wanted to help her. Now she had a good impression of this cold-looking woman in front of her. At the same time, her gratitude toward Caroline became deeper. If the first person she was most grateful to her in her life was Dario, then the second person would definitely be Caroline. Caroline was a little surprised when she heard Jade thank her. The corner of her mouth rose slightly and she said indifferently, "You're welcome." The way she looked at Jade also changed a little. It seemed that this woman wasn't that simple. She was much smarter than Jade had imagined. Moreover, the more Jade interacted her, the more she understood why this rumored cold CEO would suddenly be together with this woman and cared so much about her. He even sent people to investigate what caused her stomachache as soon as he found out that she was in trouble. He even acted out such a scene for her to see. He let her know that people's hearts were sinister and that the entertainment industry was even more sinister. If Jade wanted to make a name for herself, she had to be prepared. He knew that she didn't want to shoot a kissing scene, so he brought all the shares of the other investors of The Decadent Lady without another word. That way, he could threaten the director and force him to change the script and delete all the bed scenes and kissing scenes. It really surprised Caroline. She didn't expect Mr. Foster to do that for Jade. She'd never seen or heard anything of like that before. Perhaps Jade had an unknown charm. How could she conquer Dario if she didn't? As they were walking, Taylor, who was covered in injuries, suddenly ran out. She stood in the corridor and cried out, "Jade, I really didn't want to harm you. Acting is my obsession. This is my retribution. Sorry." Jade paused for a moment. When she heard Taylor's words, her heart ached a little. She knew that Taylor had a bad family background and that her life had always been very bitter. But that didn't make it right for her to harm others. Jade left without even turning her head. Jade only hoped that Taylor would see clearly the path that she was heading down and that she wouldn't do anything foolish again. Caroline turned around and said indifferently, "They deserve their punishment. You don't need to feel guilty." "I know," Jade nodded and told herself that she couldn't be soft-hearted anymore. She just saw Taylor pull the horse back from the cliff and couldn't bear to see it. She didn't know what kind of punishment they would receive next, but she believed that they wouldn't have good lives in the future. Suzanne Winslet was just similar, Jade thought. Because of what happened that day, Ashley and Taylor were directly banned. The internet was abuzz, and it was likely that their reputations had been too damaged to continue their acting careers. And the scriptwriter, who used to have an unspoken rule, was replaced. And the assistant director took money and left. Washington. Caroline immediately told Lucas about the situation, and Lucas reported what happened in the office. Mr. Foster, I wonder if you're satisfied with this outcome? Lucas asked lightly. Dario didn't even look up. He only said, yes. The two of them were still the two considered women he didn't want to be too ugly with. He just thought that such an evil person had actually lived with Jade in the past in the same dormitory. With that thought, he really wanted to kill them immediately. But there's one thing that I'm very curious about. How do you know that these two women would suspect each other instead of others? They even started arguing in front of Miss Winslet and told her the truth. When Lucas heard what happened, he was really shocked. He even felt that it wouldn't be easy to succeed, but the facts proved that Dario's judgment was never wrong. Even if he was wrong, it was still a matter of fact. It was definitely not a problem for others. He really didn't know how Dario's brain worked. Dario was so meticulous that no one could guess what he was thinking. He thought that no one in the world could mess with Dario. It was just a random guess. Dario said these 4 words indifferently. Clearly, he didn't want to tell Lucas the truth. Lucas narrowed his eyes and thought about Dario's words. He wanted to tell him that he could kill someone with just a casual guess. Mr. Foster, you're really powerful. With just a casual guess, you could tell what those two women were thinking. No wonder Miss Winslet was willing to marry you in just a few days. Lucas seemed to be hinting at something with his words. Dario glanced at him indifferently. He didn't say anything. He knew that Lucas was jealous, but he couldn't bear to hurt him. But why don't you let Miss Winslet know? If you tell her the truth directly, she'll definitely believe you. Why did you go through so much trouble? You did so many things behind her back and she doesn't know. Wouldn't it be for nothing? For some reason, Lucas started to feel indignant toward his boss. He never liked to meddle in his business, but for some reason, he couldn't help but intervene this time. Episode 127. Dario is a bad person. Maybe Lucas just couldn't watch anymore. After all, he had never seen Dario treat a woman with such care. But Lucas couldn't understand why Dario didn't tell Jade that he had done so many things. What was the point of not telling her? Dario stopped what he was doing and looked at him with a sharp gaze. There wasn't a trace of emotion in his dark eyes. Lucas immediately shut his mouth. It seems you don't have enough work to do. One corner of Dario's mouth curled up and a trace of coldness flashed across his eyes. Are you joking? Do you know how many hours I've slept over these past few days? It's less than 4 hours. Every morning when I wake up and come to work, do you really think I have nothing to do? Lucas said discontentedly. He'd been running back and forth for the past few days, but it was the same for Dario. The difference between the two of them was huge. Dario was almost full of electricity. It was impossible to tell that he'd only slept for 4 hours. However, he kept yawning. It seemed that he'd become lazy after leaving the army. Right, David Swan came to find you just now, but you specifically instructed me. That's why I said you weren't here. Lucas suddenly put on a serious face. Did David say anything? Dario asked casually. He clearly didn't care if he had come or not. Probably because of Miss Monica, you know. As for why Miss Monica was looking for him, you should know. Clearly, it was for Evelyn. But even if Lucas didn't say it, he believed that he knew in his heart. All right, I know. You can leave now. Dario's beautiful face didn't show any expression. He waved his hand and chased him away. Lucas naturally knew about their relationship. However, he didn't want to say anything. It was their own choice and it had nothing to do with him. He didn't want to meddle in other people's business. At the film shoot, Jade had been very busy for the past few days. The other actors were fine. There were not so many scenes, but Jade and Michael were the male and female leads. In this scene, it was basically the two of them. Jade wanted to finish her work as soon as possible, so she volunteered to work overtime. Michael was also very dedicated to his work and was very cooperative. Because of the sudden change of the scriptwriter, the new scriptwriter needed to familiarize himself with the script. Then, he needed to change the script and delete some kissing and bed scenes. He also wanted the plot to be more natural and attractive. Making the changes required work. So the actors wasted a lot of time each day and also needed to discuss the plot with the scriptwriter. After a day, Jade felt that she couldn't stand up straight. Fortunately, Jade and Michael cooperated well, and the filming process went smoothly. They took advantage of the extra time they got while the support actors were filming. They could take a break. Jade felt very tired, but she found the work very fulfilling. But for some reason, she felt as if something were missing in her heart. She stared at her phone every night, but she didn't receive the text messages or phone calls she was hoping for. When she returned to the hotel, she looked at the empty room and couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Her longing for Dario increased day by day. She stretched out her fingers and calculated carefully. She found that she hadn't seen him for a week, and there was one thing that she found very strange. Recently, she had slept very well every night, and her bed was always very warm. It was as if someone was sleeping next to her. That feeling was very familiar. It was as if Dario had never left. However, she felt that Dario couldn't actually have been bedside her during the night. When she woke up the next day, she was alone in her room. She still remembered the first day she came here. Without Dario's embrace, she couldn't sleep. Why did she suddenly fall asleep? Was it because of how tired she'd been recently? Was that why she slept so soundly? Jade didn't think too much about it. She sent a text to Dario and told him about what had happened that day before falling into a deep sleep. She was in a hurry every day. She was always working hard at filming. Every time she finished filming a scene, she felt that she was one step closer to returning home. Soon, she would be able to go home. Soon, she would be able to see Mr. Foster. Jade's longing for him was growing day and night. She had never thought of anyone like that before and had never experienced such longing. Half a month had passed, and Jade had sent messages to Dario every day. Sometimes, she would even ask him if he'd been busy recently. Dario would occasionally reply to her, saying that he wasn't busy. Sometimes he would send her a text message in a commanding tone, making her miss him every day. She shamelessly asked him if he missed her, but he didn't answer. When Jade saw that he hadn't answered, she angrily threw away her phone and even hid it. She didn't care if it broke. It was as if she was venting her anger. Her face was full of dissatisfaction. "Damn you, Dario, you big bad guy. And you make me miss you every day. He said that he was busy, but he didn't come to see me. Don't you know how much I miss you, you bad person? You should stay in Washington by yourself. I'll never talk to you again." At the same time, she was a little worried. Dario was so handsome. Every time he went out, many women stared at him. And now, she wasn't by his side. She didn't know if he would hook up with other women. Jade brooded more and more, and her heart became more and more anxious. When she was with the filming crew, Milliken used her name to give many things to the others in the crew. Everyone was given snacks and a small electric fan. Because they were in a remote place, these things were very rare. Jade had a good temper and was very easygoing, but she soon got into fights with her co-workers. At the same time, she was very popular with the crew. Each and every one of them took the initiative to come and serve her when she was resting. Some people even massaged her. It made her feel very embarrassed. She'd never been treated like that in her entire life. Suddenly, she felt that no matter how hard the work was, it was worth it. "You don't have to do this. Those things were sent by the company. They have nothing to do with me," Jade always said to them in embarrassment. Moreover, she couldn't afford it. But no matter what she said, the others just treated her better and better. The younger ones even called Jade their older sister. They felt that she was very modest. Even if they didn't say that Jade was the one who gave them the gifts, they thought it was all thanks to her. Milliken was rich and overbearing. The gifts were good for the actors as well as for the entire crew. They all felt that following Jade would bring great fortune. Caroline also quietly told Jade to accept all that the others did for her and not to worry. These things were specially prepared by the company to increase her popularity, and her popularity and public figure were all part of the good and bad she was faced with. As a newcomer, what she needed the most was positive feedback. Jade was very glad that she could join a company as good as Milliken, but she also felt a little strange. She hadn't acted in any famous films yet, so how could she let such a powerful company treat her so well? Episode 128, An Embarrassed Reunion. That day, Jade was as busy as usual until past 12 o'clock. After changing her clothes, the first thing she did was look at her phone. If she hadn't received a text message or a phone call, she would be very disappointed. Sure enough, it was the same as the other days. She secretly made up her mind to ignore Dario. That big bad guy actually didn't come to see her for a whole week. Just as she was about to leave, the director suddenly stopped her. Jade thought that he wasn't satisfied, so she was extremely nervous. She didn't expect the director to tell her that the coming days wouldn't be very busy, and that he wanted her to go back and rest for a few days. When Jade heard the news, she was shocked and then puzzled. Why did he suddenly give her a vacation? The director seemed to have read her mind. He smiled and took the initiative to say, "Don't think too much, you did well, and I'm very satisfied. I was afraid that you would be overworked, so I gave you a few days of vacation. I don't want my female lead to fall." She'd been filming for almost half a month and had hardly rested at all. Every day, she had to work until early in the morning. She did indeed need a good rest. However, she didn't think of resting at first. She wanted to go back to Washington to look for Dario. "Director, I definitely won't let you down. You should also take a good rest." Jade bowed to him with a face full of gratitude. She thought that the director wouldn't be good to her because she didn't want to shoot the kissing scene last time. She didn't expect the director to care so much about her. She was very touched. "You go." When Jade went out, she saw Caroline waiting for her outside. She looked at her with some hesitation and then looked at the dark sky outside. It was already past 12 o'clock. Dario should have already fallen asleep. Why not wait until tomorrow morning to see him? But she wanted to see him now. Even if he was already asleep when she went back, she would be satisfied just to see his sleeping face. For a moment, Jade was in a dilemma. She wanted to go back, but was afraid of causing trouble for Caroline. She was also afraid of disturbing Dario. Caroline looked. "So I want to go home, but thinking about it, it's too late. Forget it." Before Jade could finish speaking, Caroline drove the car over without another word. "Get in the car." When Caroline said those words to her, Jade was dumbstruck. She thought that Caroline was very beautiful. If Caroline was a man, Jade would definitely fall in love with her. Jade went up, very agitatedly. She didn't even pack her things, but she had everything she needed at home, and she still had to come back anyway. Because it was midnight, there were no cars on the road at all. Caroline drove very quickly. In less than an hour, Jade made it home. After thanking Caroline, she quickly ran up. Standing at the door, she didn't know what to say. This was the home she'd been thinking about for half a month. When she thought that she could immediately see Dario, her heart started beating quickly. Dario should be sleeping, right? Would she wake him up when she went in? When he woke up and saw her, what kind of expression would he have? She wondered if he would excitedly kiss her and say that he missed her. Jade couldn't stop thinking about it and even blushed. She felt embarrassed. When she thought about Dario saying that he wasn't busy, she felt embarrassed. She was a little angry that he hadn't come to see her. She had thought it through, though. When she went in, she definitely couldn't give him a good look. She must question him. Right, just like that. Jade trembled and entered the password at the door. She carefully opened the door and went in. It was pitch black inside. She could only feel her way around. She first went to the study room to take a look and found his notebook lying on the desk. Since he wasn't working, she thought that he must have gone to sleep. She tiptoed to the bedroom. The curtains in the room were tightly drawn, making it impossible to see clearly. The room was terrifyingly quiet, and it seemed that there was no scent of him here. Jade stood at the door and doubtfully took a step forward. Only then did she realize that the blanket on the bed was neatly folded and that there was no one there at all. She thought that it was strange and wondered where he went. She couldn't find anyone, so she turned on the lights in the room and the hall. Only then did she realize that there was really no one there. To think that she was still so careful. It was already so late. Where did he go? Was he still at work? It was rare for her to come back and not find Dario. She couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Her sleepiness had completely disappeared. She lay on the bed and inexplicably felt a little angry. She wanted to take out her phone and ask him where he was. She also thought of going out to find him when she had the time, but she didn't know where he was. She tried not to care about him. I won't call you. Bad person. Dario, I'll ignore you. Jade scolded as she tapped her phone. Just as she was about to take a shower before bed, a familiar figure suddenly appeared at the door. That person was smiling at her, and his voice was low and sexy. I was wondering why my eyelids kept twitching, but it turns out that a little idiot was scolding me. Ah, Mr. Foster, it's you! When did you come back? Jade was shocked because her phone slipped and hit her in the face while she was lying down. Ah, it hurts. Jade realized that her phone was really hard for the first time. Dario's expression changed when he saw what happened. He immediately stepped forward and picked her up. He even reached out his hand and rubbed her sore face. Little fool, you were so careless. Dario was very close to Jade, and he kept touching her face with his hand. Jade couldn't say anything, and her face turned red. She was too embarrassed. She was still thinking about what to say. There's no need to say anything. He was actually scolded by her behind his back. He was done for. Would he be angry? The director gave me a vacation, so I came back, Jade said, as if she wanted to tell him that she had come to look for him the moment she got a vacation. Dario had just returned, and he wanted to look for her. He hadn't expected Jade to come back without telling him about her holiday. Mr. Foster, Jade lowered her eyes and stuttered. She wanted to say that she missed him very much, but she was too embarrassed to say it. Dario pursed his lips and didn't say anything. His warm hand slowly moved from her face to her soft lips, and then he touched her waist. He lowered his head and kissed the spot where her phone had hit. His voice was a little hoarse as he asked, "Does your face still hurt?" Dario's lips were very close. They were almost leaning against Jade's lips as he spoke. She could even feel his breath. It was so familiar that it made her feel at ease. "It doesn't hurt anymore." Jade opened her mouth and her lips curled up. She touched Dario's lips. That feeling of electricity immediately covered her entire body. She pursed her lips. She'd almost forgotten the feeling of kissing him. Although she really wanted it, she was afraid that Dario would laugh. So, she lowered her head again. Episode 129. Want my help to wash? Dario smiled and pinched her chin. Before she could react, he pressed his lips against hers. Jade dodged and slightly parted her red lips. Dario took the opportunity to slip his tongue in and kiss her. Initially, Dario was only hugging her, but then he found it troublesome and directly pressed against her body. The kiss became even more intense. Jade could still respond at the beginning, but after a while, he was very fierce, and she couldn't withstand it at all. The temperature of her body also rose. She panted heavily and stretched out her soft hand. It wasn't easy for her to push him away. "Mr. Foster, I'm almost dying." She was almost suffocated by the kiss, but his kiss was so intoxicating that she couldn't stop it. Dario moved closer to her ear, without changing his expression. He gently bit her small earlobes, but her ears immediately felt numb. "Mr. Foster, don't be like this." Jade shrunk her neck and tried to push him away. She looked extremely shy, and Dario could notice all the changes in her. "What, don't you like it?" Dario's voice sounded even lower after the intense kiss. It was full of charm. "Not really. I just can't take it anymore." Jade lowered her head and answered with a red face. Now she really wanted to slap herself. She had just sworn that she would ignore him, but in the next second, she was drunk on his kiss. It was too embarrassing. Dario was very satisfied with her sincerity, and a smile instantly appeared in his eyes. "You go take a bath. I'll run the water for you." "Mr. Foster, there's no need. It's too troublesome. I'll just take a shower." "Lie down." He pushed Jade back onto the bed and let her lie down. Dario went to the bathroom after he finished speaking. He filled the bathtub with water and added some oil that would help relieve fatigue. It smelled very good. Jade narrowed her eyes and felt a little sleepy. Her heart was still beating intensely because of their kiss. Just when she was about to fall asleep, she suddenly felt a trace of coolness. It was as if someone was taking off her clothes. Jade suddenly opened her eyes and discovered that someone really was taking off her clothes. She was only wearing her underwear. "Ah, Mr. Foster, what are you doing?" Jade quickly covered her chest and looked at him angrily. Evil soul. He actually took off her clothes while she was sleeping. However, Dario still had a calm expression. He didn't feel like he had done anything wrong. "How are you going to shower if you don't take off your clothes?" "I'll take off my clothes myself." "No need, I can help you." "Huh, Dario, you damn pervert, let go of me." "Don't worry, I'll be done very quickly." Dario held her hand and looked at her with a dark expression. Jade was stunned. When she saw his gaze, she felt weak all over. In the end, she didn't resist. She let him take off her clothes and carry her to the bathroom. Then he gently put her in the bathtub. She immediately noticed the fragrance of the oils. It made her feel very at ease. Even her fatigue disappeared. Jade quickly got into the bathtub because there was still a lot of foam in it. Once she was in, only one shoulder and her head were visible. She stared angrily at Dario, who was sitting beside the bathtub. Seeing that he didn't react for a long time, she finally couldn't help but say, "Mr. Foster, I'm going to take a bath." Dario hummed lightly. "Mr. Foster, can I trouble you to get out of here?" "Don't you need me to wash you?" "No, thank you." If it wasn't for her naked body, Jade would have rushed out and chased Dario away. After Dario went out, Jade finally took a bath in peace. When she was shooting for the film, she took a bath every day to save some time with herself. It had been a long time since she felt so comfortable. Furthermore, there was no bathtub there. After about half an hour of bathing, she was just about to get out when a familiar figure walked in. "Ah, Mr. Foster, what are you doing?" Jade screamed and quickly hid in the water, which was almost cold. Dario calmly put down his pajamas and underwear. "If I don't come in, how are you going to get out?" Jade looked at him blankly. It turned out that she had misunderstood him. He only came to bring her clothes, and she was still so fierce towards him. "Well, thank you." Just as she finished speaking, Dario revealed a meaningful smile and left. Jade carefully climbed out of the bathtub and locked the door. When she picked up the pajamas that Dario had brought, she almost broke down. No wonder he had such a smile on his face. No wonder he was so kind. She actually thanked him. Shit. She wanted to take back her words. "Bad person, Dario," Jade cursed in a low voice. She didn't expect Dario to hear her so quickly. "I don't mind you coming out naked," Dario said from outside. Jade stuck her tongue out through the frosted glass and picked up her pajamas. They were made from such a small piece of fabric. Could these really be pajamas? The nightgown was too sexy. It was barely covered, but the fabric on her chest was still very small. When she put them on, half of her chest was exposed. Moreover, they were made of transparent lace. What difference was there between wearing these and not wearing anything? She looked around and put on her pajamas. She wanted to wrap another towel around her body. But as she grabbed the towel, she remembered what Sheila Mason had said to her. They weren't truly married, and now they'd been separated for so long. It was indeed somewhat unreasonable. Jade hesitated for a moment and bit her lower lip. She looked shyly at herself in the mirror and put down the towel. She wanted to be Mr. Foster's real wife. Just like Sheila said, since she had chosen him, she should take good care of him. Otherwise, he might go out and find another woman. She couldn't accept him being with another woman. She couldn't even accept other women hugging him. Jade slowly opened the door and walked out pretending to be calm. Her heart was actually jumping. She was still wondering if Dario would be excited to see her dressed like that. Would his blood boil so that he would rush over in an instant? However, he didn't. Dario calmly sat there and read a magazine. She saw that he had only taken a glance when she came out of the shower. He said lightly, "You finished washing. Come and lie down. I'll go and wash." Dario stood up and took off his clothes in front of Jade as he spoke. Episode 130. A Change of Position. Jade watched from the side as Dario unbuttoned his shirt, revealing his strong chest muscles and chiseled abs. She blushed when he saw her, but she couldn't help herself. It was all his body's fault for being so hot. Dario said, "Wait for me to come out." Saying this, he went into the bathroom. When she thought about his body and what he had just said, she felt even more embarrassed. What did she want him to do when he came out? What did she want? Jade sat there nervously and did not feel sleepy at all. She kept thinking about what might have happened next and whether she should pretend to be asleep. She was still thinking about it when she heard the water drain out of the tub. Dario came out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around himself. He smelled like clean skin and shower gel. She didn't know if it was intentional or not, but he'd wrapped that towel very casually. Whenever his upper body moved, his lower body would move along with it. The towel would open just enough to give her a glimpse of what lay beneath it. Jade's mouth was dry, and her heart was hammering. Dario rubbed his wet hair with another towel. "Why don't you lie down and wait for me?" "Oh, I wasn't waiting for you. I'm going to sleep." Jade lay down and pulled the blanket up to her ears. Dario leaned over the bed and looked into her shy eyes. "We will sleep later. You lie down first." His voice was filled with tenderness. It was intoxicating. "Why should I sleep later?" Jade blinked at him, a little flustered by his nearness. "What do you think?" Dario tugged the blanket off her body and raised his eyebrows at her pajamas. In the dim, tender light of the bedroom, the delicate lace seemed full of shadows, shrouding her in delightful mystery. The translucent fabric across her chest showed a hint of the pink tips beneath it. She was practically committing a crime by wearing this. Dario lowered his body and leaned close to Jade's lips. He said in a low voice, "We know this bed is good for sleeping. What else could we use it for?" Jade thought her heart might have actually flipped over. She accepted her fate and closed her eyes. She felt a little like she was going to her death, but she was excited to die. How long had they been dancing around this question? For a moment, Jade didn't know what to say. Then she blurted, "Please be gentle, Mr. Foster. I know it hurts the first time, and I'm nervous." By the time she finished speaking, her voice was almost too soft for her to hear. Dario's face showed a mix of emotions that Jade couldn't quite interpret. She suddenly wanted for a place to hide. "Don't worry, I won't hurt you." Dario stared into her eyes and said with emphasis, "I know what I'm doing." Jade squirmed. "Mr. Foster, can we stop talking about this? I'm so sorry." "Be good and lie down." Dario touched her soft hair and pressed her down. When his cool chest touched her soft body, it warmed up immediately. Jade looked at his burning eyes nervously. Her breathing was uneven. She clenched her fists tightly. Dario almost laughed when he saw a look of expectation and fear. "Turn around," he commanded. "Huh? Turn around?" Jade looked at him in surprise. Why would she turn around? Was he going to use this position for their first time together? Jade's face was filled with confusion. When she didn't move, Dario gently flipped her over and made her lie there, looking helpless. Jade couldn't see him and didn't know what he was going to do to her. She felt so vulnerable. Just when she wanted to turn back over and discuss the matter, large hands gripped her shoulders. A thrill coursed through her body. "Here I am." He blew lightly on her ear. She gasped, tensing up. "Mr. Foster," she said weakly. His tone was gentle. "Relax." Something cold touched her shoulder. Something cold and wet. She looked up in surprise and found Dario sitting beside her, massaging oil into her shoulders with his brows locked in concentration. It felt wonderful. He was amazing at this. He knew how hard to press and wear and how best to use the oil to relax her. This was the best thing that had happened to Jade in a while. "Doing all right? How's my technique?" Dario asked softly, with his lips buzzing against her ear. "Yes, it feels good. You're so good to me." Jade nodded and let her eyes slide shut. She was half asleep. She didn't care about the misunderstandings in their conversation. She did not know something important. Dario had never given anyone a massage. She was the first one. "Don't move. Relax." Jade lay there obediently. Her body was softening like butter in the sun. She was completely immersed in the pressure of Dario's hands. A surge of warmth flowed through her heart. Was her husband omnipotent? He was rich and movie star gorgeous, with an unbelievably hot body. He could win a fight, give a massage, and cook a delicious meal, and he even cleaned and did laundry. How had she earned this man? Did she save the entire universe in her previous life? Jade looked up at him, a little flirtatiously. "Mr. Foster, you seem proud of your technique. Does that only apply to massages?" Dario had asked Jade to take a bath and lie down in bed. Had he really only planned on giving her a massage? A massage is the most intimate thing you can do to another person. Dario pinched her thigh gently. "Isn't it?" Jade swallowed and could not say anything. Dario leaned close to her ear and murmured, "You seem unsatisfied, like you want something else. You told me to wait for you just so you could give me a massage?" "Of course," said Dario. "What did you think?" Jade was suddenly furious. If he wanted to give her a massage, then why didn't he just say so? "Mr. Foster, you're so annoying." Jade buried her face in the pillow. Dario patted her back and jostled her shoulder, but she would not get up. It has been so embarrassing. Furthermore, she suspected that he'd misled her on purpose. He was so calm and serious about the whole thing. He clearly wanted to see her make a fool of herself. "Oh, is that so? If I'm so terrible, why do you want me so bad?" Jade scrambled to a sitting position. "Me? What are you even talking about? You're the one causing all the trouble." She punched Dario in the arm as hard as she could. He didn't even flinch. "Anyway," she continued, "I'm busy with the shoot, and you didn't even text me. I'm the one who texted you every day." Dario just kept looking at her quietly. She finished. "Why do I even bother with you?" She realized she felt so much better when she said what she wanted to say. Before this, Jade had never been so undisciplined with him. She would not hit him or scold him, but now they were sitting casually on the bed together. Their relationship seemed to be getting closer. They were more like a couple who knew how to quarrel and had small conflicts. They were no longer as polite as before. Although their relationship was harmonious, Dario had always felt like something was missing, as though Jade lacked a will of her own or a certain spark. But he had clearly been wrong about that. She had plenty of spark. She was angry at him for neglecting her, and she felt comfortable expressing that. She could consider his feelings and have an open discussion with him. He suddenly felt much better about their marriage. She smacked him on the arm and he smiled at her. "Jade, are you tickling me?" "No, I want to beat you to death." Jade scowled at him. Her anger was beginning to dissipate in the face of his extreme hotness. "What, you want to be a widow? Dead men give terrible massages." "I'm willing to risk it." Jade thought about hitting him again, but it was hardly going to do any good. Dario took her clenched fist, gently pried it open, and kissed her palm. "Are you mad that I don't want to have sex with you?" he asked bluntly, but quietly. He was surprised at Jade's expectations. He really had just wanted to serve her well with a massage. Sex wasn't on his mind, at least no more than usual. It was confusing to be a husband today. "What?" Jade snapped. "What? I'm angry at you for messing with me." She was so flustered that she stumbled over her words. He was right, but there was no way she could admit that to him. "Okay, I will definitely not let you misunderstand next time." Dario exerted his strength, and Jade fell heavily into his arms. She stiffened for an instant, and he lifted her up. He threaded his hand through her hair and pressed his lips against hers. "No, Mr. Foster, let go!" Jade struggled. If she'd held still, she would be fine, but the movement brought her lower body right up against his. She could feel him against her, hot and hard. A wave of heat swept through her. She felt mingled excitement and fear. "Do you really want to let me go?" Dario's voice was slightly hoarse. Jade loved that she had damaged his composure. She thought of the last time they shared a bed, at the hotel. He let her sleep right on top of him because the bed was too small. At this memory, Jade couldn't help but kiss him. At first, it was just a slow kiss, then it got more intense. Dario thrust his tongue into her mouth and made a sound that was almost a growl. Jade felt herself melting. She squeezed her eyes shut and stroked her tongue against Dario's. She could do this forever. What if she could just stay with him? How amazing would that be? After kissing her for a long time, Dario pulled back. "Let's sleep, it's very late." He turned off the lamp, snuggled up against her, and patted her on the back. Jade was very sleepy, but she couldn't sleep. All of this was like a dream. When she woke up, she would still be alone in that hotel. She'd been alone for over 20 years. Logically speaking, she should be used to it. But now that she'd had a taste of life with Dario Foster, she never wanted to go back to solitude. "Are you still awake?" Dario's sleepy voice came from beside her ear. "Do you want to watch the sunrise?" "Actually," Jade couldn't help but ask, "how can you sleep like that? Aren't you uncomfortable?" "Like what?" In answer, Jade pushed her hip against his hardness. Dario drew in a breath. She did it again. She wasn't very familiar with the male body, although of course she knew about its general construction and functions. She wanted to learn. Dario hugged Jade harder. He asked in a low voice, "You want to solve my problem for me?" Episode 132. Together, yet separate. "How can I solve your problem?" Jade asked softly. She regretted it the moment she said it. Dario's low voice buzzed against her ear. "Do you really want to know?" Against her hip, she felt a twitch. Now she realized what he meant. "Never mind," Jade said firmly. "Forget what I asked." "Then close your eyes and go to sleep like a good girl." He smacked her butt. After that, Jade heard his breathing become slower and more steady. He seemed to have really gone to sleep. But the hardness against her lower body was still there. Did it have a life of its own, completely separate from his brain? Could he really sleep like this? In the dim moonlight, she studied his handsome face. He made her feel as if something had been knocked over in her heart. They'd been up so late, and Jade was so exhausted from filming Decadent Lady that she actually slept until noon. This wasn't at all like her, but it saved money on breakfast, she supposed. As Jade was waking up, she stretched out her hand beside her. Instead of the usual cool, empty sheets, her hand rested on a warm body. What a wonderful feeling. It was very warm, soft on the surface but hard overall. Something furry brushed her fingertips. She snatched her hand away as if out of a fire. Please let him still be asleep, she thought. Please let him not notice. But when she looked up, she saw his eyes, intent on her, and the strange smile on his face. She was mortified. "Good morning, Mr. Foster," she chirped with artificial brightness. "I'll just get up and—" Before she could even sit up, Dario yanked her into his arms. His voice was cool and languid. "Have you touched enough?" Jade could feel herself blushing, but she pretended nothing had happened. "What do you mean? I was just seeing if you were still in bed." "Seems like I've been sleeping through some things. Do you often feel me up when I'm asleep?" Dario said in a low voice. He put a hand on her waist and nipped lightly at her earlobe. The sensation zapped through her and left heat in the pit of her stomach. Jade shook her head and shrank away from him. She hadn't been awake long enough for this. Dario never slept this late. Running back and forth for the last couple of weeks had worn him out. He hadn't slept well the whole time. Lying there with her in his arms, he felt at rest. "You're the one who touches people when they're sleeping," Jade pointed out, resisting the urge to knee him. Dario frowned. "I thought you knew. I thought you liked it." Jade's face turned red. She hurriedly pushed him away. So those really hadn't been dreams. Jade immediately got out of bed and found a set of clothes. She said, "Dario, I want to see my grandma today. I haven't had a chance in a long time." She did want to be with Dario, but if she went to see her grandmother first, she could give him her undivided attention later. "I'll take you there. Let's go out to eat first." Dario also got up and started getting dressed. Jade did not dare to look at him at all, but Dario was oblivious. He kept walking in front of her as if he was showing off his body on purpose. "Oh no, that's okay. It's already so late. You need to get to work." Jade didn't want to delay him, but when she saw his persistent gaze, she didn't want to reject him either. She could only follow him out of the apartment. It made sense to go out and eat because it was so late to start their day. Strangely though, Jade had found the kitchen spotless when she arrived. Not freshly cleaned, but unused. There were no ingredients. Could it be that he hadn't cooked at home the whole time she was gone? After they had lunch, Dario drove Jade to the hospital. On the way, the two of them were very quiet. Dario kept his eyes on the road ahead. Jade sat silently beside him, not knowing what to say. She had a lot she wanted to say after their time apart, but where could she even begin? Even after last night's events, Jade still felt a chasm between the two of them. It was as if she would never be able to assimilate into his world. Getting closer to him physically wasn't going to help either. There was so much about him she didn't know. When they arrived at the hospital, Jade took a breath. She did not get out of the car immediately. Instead, she looked at his peerlessly beautiful face and said softly, "If you have something to do, go do it. I'll sleep in the hospital with my grandma tonight." Dario looked at her and then bent down to unbuckle her seatbelt. Then, as if she hadn't spoken at all, he said firmly, "I will pick you up after work." Episode 133. Jade loses her temper. Jade was stunned for a moment. Maybe Dario hadn't heard what she said. She said it again. "Mr. Foster, I said I want to stay in the hospital with my grandma. It's rare for me to have a vacation. When it's over, I'll return to the set." She didn't expect Dario to say sternly, "No, you can stay here during the day, but you need to come back to sleep at night." Jade only wanted to spend the night with her grandmother and join Dario tomorrow. She didn't expect this level of rigidity from him. She could not help but tremble in her heart. Was she just his teddy bear? Was he unwilling to sleep alone for even one more night? She thought of him hugging that woman at the airport. Jade felt a surge of anger. For the first time, she really lost her temper with him. "Mr. Foster, are you even listening to me? I said I want to stay here with Grandma tonight. If you just need a girl to warm up your bed, I'm sure you can find someone. Probably a few at once." The more Jade spoke, the louder she became. The atmosphere turned freezing cold. Jade looked at Dario and was terrified for a moment. She reached for the door handle. He stopped her. She turned around and met the gaze of those cold eyes. There was no expression on the rest of his face, but those eyes blazed cold as if he were going to freeze her into an ice sculpture. Jade tried to take back her hand from him, but found that she couldn't move. "Mr. Foster," she said. "Come on, I need to go." His grip didn't relax. Jade said with some fear, "I was just spouting nonsense. Just pretend you didn't hear me." This kind of Dario made her feel helpless. Dario's dark eyes seemed to want to see through her. "Jade, I'll tell you one last time. You are the only woman I want. Do you understand? Dario looked into her eyes. His eyes were a bit softer than before. He kept getting closer to Jade and pressed her onto the passenger seat. Jade pushed his body and turned her head to the side. She could feel breath on her face. Was he still angry? Was he going to kiss her? She hated that she couldn't tell. He was always like this. He always spoke to her in a commanding tone, like she was his servant rather than his wife. But hearing him say that she was the only woman for him still got to her. Her heart began to stir again. Mr. Foster, I'm really going now. Let go of me. Jade put her free hand on the button to open the door. Do you want me to go to the hospital with you? Dario asked calmly. He didn't intend to let go of Jade. He didn't want her to leave him. He gently touched her pretty face as if he was touching a treasure, something priceless and breakable. No thanks. You still have your own things to do. Jade lowered her head to avoid looking him in the eyes. She still saw the coldness take over that handsome and threatening face. Jade opened the car door and was about to get out when Dario reached over and slid a pair of black sunglasses onto her face. Mr. Foster, what are you doing? I don't like this. Jade had never liked wearing sunglasses. Dario did not explain anything. He just said, Put it on. This is my gift to you. You can take it back when you're in your room. I will come to pick you up after dinner, okay? Although his tone had softened a little, his attitude was still firm. Jade just frowned and said unhappily, I'm going in. Drive safe, okay? She turned around and left. Dario did not leave immediately. He parked the car and waited quietly until he could not see Jade any longer. He frowned slightly and pursed his lips. Was she blaming him for teasing her yesterday? Has something happened to make her jealous? She was cute when she was angry, and still kind, reminding him to be careful on the road. But he didn't know what she was thinking about. It must be because she was so tired from filming. He was still brooding about the visit to the class. She thought he didn't know anything, but Caroline had told her everything. She said that she would ask whether anyone had called or texted. She was obviously waiting for him. Silly Jade. Yesterday she had that provocative look on her face. How could he resist touching her? He only wanted her to be rested before they got into more strenuous exercise. When he thought about how she was shy under him yesterday and wanted him to be gentle, he couldn't help but smile. The first time, Jade, don't worry. In the future, you will be with me for all your first times. Dario turned the key in the ignition and drove away. As Jade walked down the hallway of the hospital, she felt silly. Dario had asked her to wear sunglasses, and for some reason, she was willing to listen to him even though she didn't like them. So here she was, wearing sunglasses in broad daylight inside the hospital. At first, she felt like someone was looking at her. As she walked, she drew more and more glances. Then she heard a girl's voice behind her. Hey, don't you think that girl wearing sunglasses looks familiar? Another voice responded, I know where I've seen her, that shampoo commercial. Episode 134. Hospital Visitors. The three girls in the hospital hallway put their heads together and giggled. One of them said, Now that you mention it, it really does look like her. Her name is Jade, right? That shampoo ad is everywhere. Jade looked back at the girls curiously. Were they really talking about her? But why would a celebrity just be walking around here by herself? Another one of the girls argued. She probably just looks like Jade Winslet. Then the girls noticed Jade looking over at them. She looked over. Wow, she looks so good. Look at her long legs. Should we take a picture with her? Forget it. It's definitely not her. Why would she be here? She's still looking at us. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. They scurried down the hallway, giggling. Jade watched them go, wondering. She looked like a celebrity? A celebrity named Jade? This was so weird. She shook her head to clear it. She was here to see Grandma, not eavesdrop on random girls. The moment she walked into her grandmother's ward, a wave of coldness swept through her heart. There were two uninvited guests in the ward. It was her Aunt Suzanne and cousin Ivana. What were they doing here? For an instant, they didn't seem to recognize Jade. She'd been given a new hairstyle on the set of Decadent Lady. She wore the black sunglasses Dario had forced onto her face and a full outfit of designer clothes that Dario had bought her. She carried a limited edition Louis Vuitton bag. Ivana realized that this was her cousin and was flooded with envy. The clothes and the bag didn't look like knockoffs. What was Jade doing with such expensive things? Jade, I didn't recognize you in nice clothes. Ivana delivered this backhanded compliment with perfect sweetness. Jade ignored this. She looked at them indifferently and asked, "What are you doing here?" She should ask how they knew her grandmother was here. Logically speaking, after Grandma changed places, only Jade knew about it. They must have badgered the hospital into telling them she was there. There were no good people in the Winslet family. She had to be on her guard. "What do you mean? We came to see Grandma Iris." Ivana rolled her eyes at her. "She doesn't need to see you," Jade snapped. These people had threatened her with surgery fees and tried to force her to marry an old man. Now they had the nerve to show up in her grandma's room? Suzanne just stood to the side and did not say anything. Jade was surprised. This did not seem like her aunt. If she'd seen Jade dressed like this in the past, she would have made fun of her. But now she didn't say a word. This made Jade even more curious. What was she trying to do? When she looked at Suzanne carefully, she saw that her clothes were very different from her usual style. They were expensive, of course, but very conservative. She had a large silk scarf slung around her neck as though she wanted to be ready to cover her face at any moment. It was probably because of her recent experiences with the media. When she went out, she had to be fully armed. Ivana was about to say something when Suzanne said quietly, "Honey, let's go." They turned to walk out of the ward. Jade couldn't wait for them to be gone. But Ivana appeared in the doorway again. She stretched out her hand languidly, showing off the sparkle of her diamond ring. Clearly, Ivana hadn't forgotten that Jade didn't even have a wedding ring when she said she was married. Ivana looked at Jade arrogantly. "I almost forgot to tell you. Bruce and I got our marriage certificate. You'll have to come to our wedding." She clearly wanted to upset Jade, but Jade didn't feel anything. She had loved Bruce once. At one time, this news would have destroyed her. But now, she had Dario. Even if Bruce hadn't dumped her, twice, and had been part of a vicious crime against her, she would be done with him. He wasn't a man. He was a beast. Jade calmly took off her sunglasses and revealed her beautiful face. She smiled at Ivana. "Oh, then congratulations to you guys. Is your husband out of prison now? Attempted rape is kind of a big deal, isn't it?" Ivana's expression changed. Clearly, she knew about this already. In fact, she and Bruce had had a big fight about this. She hated that Jade knew about it too. Ivana glared at her poor, insignificant cousin. "Jade, what the fuck are you talking about? That was just a rumor. Leave my husband alone." Jade gave a cold laugh. "Just a rumor? Go ask your hubby about that." She stepped forward and closed the door in Ivana's face. Jade leaned against the door of the ward, slightly enjoying the muffled shouting coming from the other side. She did feel a little bad for Ivana. Jade knew how charming Bruce could be and how well he hid the monster inside him. He could easily trick a wiser person than Ivana into loving and defending him. It occurred to Jade that Ivana's belly looked just the same as usual. She wondered if the pregnancy was a lie. She shook her head. It didn't matter. Bruce and Ivana were of no concern to her. She just needed to do her own thing. Episode 135. Jealousy. Ivana clenched her fists and stared at the hospital hallway. She wanted to anger her cousin and see her in pain. Instead, Jade was indifferent. Not only did she not feel the slightest bit of sadness, she even said that Ivana's husband almost went to prison. What rape attempt? What a load of bullshit. Bruce would never do that. He was a good man. He only loved Ivana and would never go after another woman. It was all a rumor. People were trying to set him up, that was all. He'd said so the other day. It was all fake. Someone had gotten him drunk. Those women had tried to seduce him. He was so handsome and so rich, of course there would be some leeches. Ivana was used to it. She liked that other women wanted him. It showed that she had good taste and that she had defeated them. Suzanne was already halfway down the corridor without her. Ivana might actually be most angry with her mother, who didn't say a word to Jade the whole time. She chased after her, teetering on her stiletto heels. She caught up with Suzanne at the door. "Mum, what's wrong with you? You didn't defend me. You didn't say anything at all. What, are you scared of Jade now because she's in a shampoo commercial?" Ivana's tone was cutting. She was angry and sad. She and Bruce were planning a wedding. She didn't need any additional problems right now. She didn't want Jade to cause trouble. That was why Ivana made a special trip to tell her about this, so she could control the scene. It was just that she didn't expect Jade to not care at all. Suzanne saw how angry her daughter was and was afraid that others would recognize them. She pulled her scarf up over her face and coldly said, "Let's talk in the car." As the driver navigated the car out of the hospital parking lot, Ivana stared at the hospital with eyes full of hate. When she thought of Jade's advertisement, she seethed more intensely. She didn't expect her cousin to actually become famous. It was just a shampoo ad. Who gets famous for being in a shampoo ad? When Ivana saw Jade in her expensive clothes and dark sunglasses like a movie star at a festival, she was so jealous that she thought she might explode. Jade was nobody. How could she afford those clothes? What right did she have to be better dressed than Ivana? Ivana had been a little princess her whole life, with Jade following behind her, wearing her car stops when she was lucky enough to get them. Jade could not be allowed to get ahead of her in life. Once they were in the car, Suzanne took off her scarf. She said coldly, "So, Jade isn't such a nice girl after all. Who do you think she had to screw to get cast in that commercial? Why would I suck up to someone like that?" Seeing her mother return to her usual self, Ivana had nothing more to say. There was a trace of a smile on her face. "Mother, you're right," Ivana agreed. "Jade has got to be sleeping her way to the top. It's so unfair to all the girls who work hard and have talent. But hey, she probably won't last long." She laughed a mean laugh. "She'll be begging to play a dead body on cop shows soon." Ivana and Suzanne knew they weren't people to be messed with. They both smiled. Jade's grandmother was probably going crazy from anger now. Before Jade had arrived in the ward, Ivana had told Grandma Iris just how rich her granddaughter was. She said Jade would move her grandmother to a private VIP room and pay all her medical bills. Ivana also hinted that Jade had gotten both her money and her acting jobs by sleeping with powerful men. This goddamn old lady had spent so much of their family's money on medical bills. Now she could be Jade's problem. In the ward, Nurse Mason was trying to comfort Jade's grandmother. When the nurse saw Jade come over, she immediately told her what happened. Jade was furious. She couldn't believe her poisonous cousin and aunt had said all this to an old woman in the hospital. Then again, maybe it wasn't that surprising. But if she'd known earlier, she wouldn't have let them off so easily. Fortunately, her grandmother didn't believe a word of it. This warmed Jade's heart through and through. The person who treated her the best in this world had always been her grandmother. Now there was Dario too. She knew that in the acting industry, there was always going to be misunderstandings. It was enough for her to know that she was innocent. She was going to pursue her dreams no matter what other people thought. "All right, Grandma, they're gone. Don't pay them any attention. They're just trying to make you mad." Jade smiled at her grandma. "So if you get mad, don't they win?" Grandma Iris smiled back at her. Jade realized she had to have a talk with the hospital administration. She hoped that if Ivana and Suzanne came back, she could have them chased out before they could disturb her grandmother. Grandma Iris was too excited now, her breath coming quick and rough. Jade took a deep breath to calm herself down so she could comfort her grandmother. She had left Washington for only a couple of weeks, and her grandmother's condition had improved drastically. She was recovering well from the surgery. If nothing unexpected happened, she should be able to be discharged very soon. Grandma Iris took Jade's hand. "I am so angry. Those two women deliberately came to bother me. Jade, sweetheart, I don't believe a word. Grandma knows you've always been a good girl." She squeezed her hand. "Grandma, if you believe me, that's enough. I don't care about anyone else. Now you should get some rest. You shouldn't waste your energy on being mad at those horrible women." Jade kissed her on the cheek and carefully helped her lie down under the blanket. When Grandma Iris was falling asleep, the nurse pulled Jade to the side. "Your aunt is really something," she said. "I'm so sorry they got in here. Don't worry. Next time, I'll have them thrown out." There was guilt in her eyes. Episode 136, Nurse Mason's Philosophy of Marriage. Jade knew the nurse was a good person. She patted her back to comfort her. "Nurse Mason, it's fine. I don't blame you. They're awful people. Anyway, they're gone now." Nurse Mason looked at her and then looked at the door. "Jade, didn't your husband come with you?" Jade felt slightly embarrassed, as though she'd left Dario behind on a bus. "Mr. Foster had to go to work. I didn't ask him to come with me." Jade kept her voice low so she wouldn't disturb her grandma. Nurse Mason looked at her worriedly. "Honey, what's going on? Are you really calling your husband Mr. Foster?" Here she affected a pompous voice and made air quotes with her fingers. "Why are you acting like an outsider in your own marriage?" I've always called him that, Jade said meekly. I don't see the problem. Maybe it was unusual that she didn't call her husband by his first name, but she'd called him that from the beginning, and it felt normal to her. Dario didn't seem to mind. She did think of him as Dario, but calling him that out loud felt strange. He'd made her do it once, but never again. Nurse Mason lowered her voice again. Did you do what I told you? What? The nurse rolled her eyes. You know, did you seal the deal yet? Seal the... Jade remembered now. Oh! Jade did not know what to say for a moment. Then she decided to tell a version of the truth. I've been filming outside the city, so we haven't had a chance to have sex. She felt her face glowing red. The nurse made a dismissive gesture. How long do you think it takes? She patted Jade's hand. Honey, take it from someone who's seen a lot in life. You've got to work to keep a guy like that. Rich people are used to getting what they want. If he thinks he made a bad choice marrying you, you'll be gone like that. On that last word, she snapped her fingers. Tonight, you're going to give him the night of his life. Tonight, I'm planning to stay here with Grandma. Jade wanted to dig a hole and climb into it. She was too shy for this conversation. The nurse waved her hand. No. I'll take care of her at night. You have more important things to do with your time off from filming. Nurse Mason turned to check on Grandma Iris, but turned back to Jade right away. If you're planning on kids, the sooner the better. Either you make a big, beautiful, rich family, or you lock down some child support. Jade stared at her. Nurse Mason was a kind woman, but ruthlessly practical, it seemed. Okay, Jade said cautiously. I understand. Thanks for taking such good care of Grandma. She left the ward quickly, before she could be given any more advice. Apparently, even though she wanted to stay at the hospital, no one was going to let her. Jade fell into deep thought. Dario had mentioned children before, but she blew him off. She imagined, for a minute, a lively family, a warm and welcoming home. Was that what Dario wanted them to have together? What did she want? Her phone rang, startling her. She expected it to be Dario, but the screen read, Violet. She picked up the phone without saying anything. A very excited voice spilled from the phone. Hey, superstar, you're finally willing to take my call. Superstar? Are you too famous for your friends now? And after everything we've been through together, Mr. Yao's drama class and the silly putty, and that time you found that toad in your box lunch? All forgotten, now that you're a big star. Violet was laughing, but her tone was sharp. She said this all so quickly that Jade couldn't digest the content, only the sound. Violet? Jade finally interrupted. What on earth are you talking about? You've been ignoring me. Jade frowned. Have you been trying to get in touch with me? Of course I have. I texted, I Snapchatted. I sent you that TikTok with the drunk giraffe. Violet's tone became more and more annoyed as she spoke. Jade blinked. Oh, I've been filming on location. I'm either working or sleeping and the place has terrible internet. I couldn't check my social media even if I had time. I did see you called before and I forgot to call you back. I'm sorry. Episode 137. Encounter with Old Friends. When Violet responded, her anger seemed to be ebbing. It's okay, superstar. I get that you're really busy. Violet calling her a superstar was getting annoying. Jade couldn't help but ask, why are you making fun of me? I'm not a star. Jade, you're so modest. I love that about you. Do you remember what I told you last time? When you're famous, you should hire me as your assistant. Well, you're famous now, Violet said excitedly. I'm here to serve and to take selfies with you and maybe pick up some roles you don't have time for. Her voice was full of laughter. Violet, what are you talking about? There was a long pause. Jade, do you really not know? Are you pretending? Jade was starting to be exacerbated. No what? Oh my God, said Violet. You're famous and you have no idea. Jade's day was just getting stranger and stranger. Why am I famous? So you haven't been online much recently? No, not at all. Jade shook her head and helplessly said, how would I have the time? I go right from shooting and pass out because I'm so tired. I barely even touch my phone. No wonder. Okay, you need to do some research on yourself. Violet laughed out loud. Just spend half an hour with your phone. You're trending on Twitter. Your ads are absolutely everywhere. Everyone I know is sharing them. And the ones that aren't are complaining that they're sick of them. Jade was stunned. My shampoo ads? How are they such a big deal? People keep saying you're like the beauty of the century. Something about having a mathematically perfect face. It's wild, huh? The more Violet spoke, the more excited she became. She'd always thought Jade was beautiful, that she'd definitely become famous someday. Maybe not quite this fast, though. Jade felt like she was made of stone, like she would be frozen forever with her mouth hanging open and her brow furrowed. This was an unexpected development, to say the least. "Oh, wow," was all she said. "Seriously," said Violet. "Check your socials, maybe turn on the TV." Jade said doubtfully, "All right then, I'll take a look when I have time." She thought back to the girls she heard talking inside the hospital. It seemed they really were talking about her, not some other person named Jade. Clearly, she'd been too cut off from the world recently. After talking to Nurse Mason, Jade still planned to go back, but she didn't want to trouble Dario. She decided to go by herself, then tell him where she was once she arrived. However, just as she was about to walk to the bus station, she saw a familiar Land Rover. The window was open. She could clearly see the person behind the wheel. Jade's heart, already a bit sore, flooded with anger. The person was Bruce. She'd just been talking about him with his new wife, Ivana. This was entirely too much Bruce for one day, or for one lifetime. The door of the Land Rover opened. Bruce got out and walked toward her. Jade immediately turned around to leave. She wanted to run back to the hospital, where at least it was safe. But her high heels slowed her down, and Bruce caught up with her. His face was full of hostility. He stared at her fiercely. When she took a step back, he grabbed her arm. His face too close to hers, he said with an icy expression, "Jade, why did you leave when you saw me? Are you scared of me?" A sharp pain shot through her arm. She clenched her teeth and endured it. She tried to step on his foot, but he knocked her shoe aside. "Stay away from me," Jade snapped. Bruce narrowed his eyes. "You're getting pretty cocky these days. Let me tell you, you don't want to piss me off." Jade looked at him indifferently. "Or what? Or you'll be in major trouble." She raised her eyebrows and smiled faintly. "Is that so? Who exactly is in trouble? You just came out of jail and it seems like you're dying to go back." Bruce's expression tightened with sullen fury. "You bitch! Do you have a death wish?" Jade looked at him coldly. "The only person who should die is you." Her eyes were full of disdain and disgust. "Stay away from me. I never want to see you again." She tried to jerk her arm out of his grasp. "Take your dirty hands off me. You don't have the right to touch me." Bruce's anger was pierced with a spear of sadness. Jade's expression hurt him. She was like a stranger to him. In the past, she would only circle around him. Her eyes and voice and words were always gentle. He thought she was gentle and meek all the way through. He would never have imagined her speaking to him like this. Now every word she said dripped with disdain. Her eyes were full of hatred. She did not want him to touch her. This had to be because of that man. He had snatched away the love that belonged to Bruce. "Jade, watch your mouth. You got lucky last time," Bruce said as he increased the strength in his hands. "You don't want to know what's going to happen when I have you to myself again." Jade looked around frantically, her anger drowning in fear. Just as she was about to call for help, a familiar deep voice came from behind her. "I'd like to have you to myself, Bruce Stevens." The voice filled Jade with joy and relief. She turned her head anxiously. Her gaze softened a little when it landed on him. "Mr. Foster, you came." She wanted to run up to him, but Bruce refused to let go of her arm. Jade frowned and turned back to Bruce. Her tone was steely with fury. "Let go of me. My husband is here now." When she said the word husband, the two men's eyes suddenly changed. Bruce's eyes were full of jealousy and anger, and Dario's eyes were full of rare joy and depth. When Bruce saw the huge difference in her attitude toward him and Dario, his heart clenched with a strange feeling. Was it rage? Was it grief? Episode 138. Thank you, Obelisk Shampoo. Bruce felt a dull, uncomfortable feeling in his chest. He was very angry. He had already lost to Dario Foster twice in a row. Dario's sharp gaze stopped on Jade's arm. "Bruce, my friend," he said with deadly coolness. "Bad news about your hand. It's going to be crippled." Bruce looked at those eagle-like eyes. His hands began to tremble. He hadn't forgotten how Dario had walked behind him the last time and knocked him down. Bruce narrowed his eyes and held Jade's arm tighter, but then he unhappily let go of her. He didn't want a broken hand. Dario saw that he knew what to do and did not say anything further. He ignored Bruce. His gaze was always on Jade. He walked forward and swept Jade into his arms. It was as if he were announcing his sovereignty. Only he could touch this woman. Bruce looked at his empty hands. For a moment, he was distracted. He felt a little empty in his heart, too. Dario tidied the hair on Jade's forehead. Their disagreement from earlier in the day was forgotten. His tone was gentle. "Why didn't you ask me to pick you up?" Jade lowered her head. When she spoke, her voice was almost normal. "I thought you'd be too busy, and I can go by myself perfectly well." She glanced at Bruce dismissively. "I didn't realize this neighborhood was infested with vermin." She took the initiative to embrace his strong body and lean into his solid warmth. Jade realized that when she saw Bruce, she wasn't afraid. Not really, because she had a feeling that Dario would appear to save her. Bruce could only stand there seething internally and watch them sweetly hug each other. Their eyes were filled with love. Bruce had been with Jade for 5 years without ever seeing such a look in her eyes. "Mr. Foster, why didn't you tell me when you got off work?" Jade looked up and frowned slightly, as if reprimanding him. Dario looked at her soft lips and kissed them. He said with a purr in his voice, "Don't you like the way I suddenly appear?" "Of course I do, I just didn't expect you to be here." Jade turned her face from his. She didn't want to kiss him in public, where others could watch and recognize them. Kissing was a private thing to her. The moment Dario appeared, it was like Bruce wasn't even a person to them. Watching the two of them hugging and kiss him made him want to kick something. "Have you had dinner? Are you hungry?" Dario touched Jade's stomach as if there were no one else around. He had a sudden vision of the surface under his hand growing round and tight with another life. "I haven't eaten yet. Grandma fell asleep and I didn't eat in the hospital." More importantly, Dario's cooking was much better than the hospital food. Jade didn't say this out loud, though. She had missed Dario's food very much while on set. The food provided to the actors was delicious, but it wasn't the same. "I knew you didn't eat. I already got the groceries. Let's go." Dario held her hand as he walked. He looked like he was holding a child's hand. He opened the car door for her, put on the seatbelt, and kissed her mouth. Then he walked to the driver's seat. Bruce stood where he was and clenched his fists. Only when their car drove away did he leave in anger. He was very angry when he saw them. He did not know why he felt his heart ache. When they got home, Dario asked her to sit on the sofa and wait. He didn't want her to help. Soon, the smell of food came from the kitchen. The house was not as cold as when Jade came back yesterday. It smelled like sautéing onions and garlic. With someone cooking in it, the house felt alive. Jade sat in the living room, feeling a little bored. The incident with Bruce had distracted her, but now she remembered that astonishing conversation with Violet. She turned on her phone and picked up the Wi-Fi. On her browser homepage, there was a picture of her. This was one of the strangest days of her entire life. Jade clicked on the picture. It took her to a video clip of her commercial for Obelisk shampoo, which didn't surprise her. What did surprise her was that it had 5 million views and many thousands of comments. Clicking on a couple of comments and links, she was surprised to learn that Obelisk was no ordinary shampoo. One bottle cost hundreds of dollars. It was used by many huge stars and in all the high-end salons that normal people couldn't even get appointments in. Jade had no idea. She thought it cost a little more than her usual shampoo since it had such a nice bottle. Maybe it cost $7 or $8. She was given so many free bottles of Obelisk when she filmed the commercial. She only kept one. The others she gave to actors and crew members who were nice to her. Now she understood why they seemed so surprised and why they kept asking her if she was sure she wanted to give them the shampoo. Jade was still thinking, isn't it just a bottle of shampoo? Why are they so happy? Now she finally knew. She turned on the TV again, only to see herself on the screen. The commercial seemed to be everywhere. Hesitatingly, she scrolled through some of the comments on the video. Most people were raving about her beauty, although some were being indecent about it. Others complained about the price of the shampoo or advertised their rap albums. But mostly, the commentators were in agreement. The Obelisk shampoo girl was the next big thing. Jade rubbed her eyes hard. She couldn't believe this. She opened her mouth wide and ran to the kitchen with her phone. She looked at Dario. She was too excited to speak. She wanted to share her joy with this man as soon as possible. "Mr. Foster!" Dario, who was dicing a tomato with surgical precision, looked up and asked, "What's wrong? Are you hungry?" "No. Mr. Foster, look. There are pictures of me all over the internet. My commercial has millions of views. This is unbelievable." Jade was so excited that she bounced a little. This wasn't her first acting job, but it was the first one that seemed to take up any space in the world. In her past roles, her scenes were fleeting. This advertisement could become part of the culture for a long time. Episode 139. Call Me By My Name. Jade was so excited about her newfound fame. However, Dario didn't show any surprise. He seemed very calm. He just continued chopping the tomato in silence. Jade thought he didn't care about the news. Then she considered the matter. Even Violet knew. Dario definitely had known about this all along. That must have been why he forced her to wear sunglasses today. He was afraid she would be recognized and cause trouble. He was right too. The girls at the hospital recognized her right away. Jade put her hands on her hips and asked him unhappily, "You already knew?" Dario just nodded. Of course he had seen it. He'd seen the original immediately. In the past weeks, he'd watched it so many times that he remembered every line she said, every movement she made, every expression on her face. He had it saved on his phone in a secret video app that looked like accounting software. "You know about this? Violet knows about this. My manager must also know about this. Everyone knows about me, but me." Jade made a big, angry hand gesture. "What's wrong with you people? Why did no one tell me? You knew I didn't have Wi-Fi and you didn't think to give me a quick update?" Jade pouted. "Who's Violet?" Dario asked, distracted. Then he slid the diced tomato into the sizzling pan on the stove, wiped his hands on a dish towel, and turned to hug her. "I didn't tell you because I wanted you to discover it yourself. I thought that would make you happier." Hearing his serious explanation, Jade was speechless. After careful consideration, she guessed it did make a kind of sense. If he'd told her from the beginning, she would be very happy, but she certainly wouldn't be this surprised. She really didn't expect a shampoo commercial to be the thing that made her famous. Naturally, she did not know that Milliken Agency had used many channels and spent a lot of money to promote the commercial. Dario touched her face, bringing her back to herself. "We will be able to eat soon." Jade inhaled the scent of the food cooking, and her mouth watered. "Mr. Foster, I'll set the table. You sit in the living room." Jade felt embarrassed to have him cooking for her again. He had already done so much for her. Tomorrow, she wanted to cook for him. "No rush. The soup needs to simmer for the flavors to meld." The two of them cuddled on the sofa. On TV, a couple on a similar sofa was kissing hungrily. Jade scooted away from Dario, who pulled her into his lap. "Mr. Foster, it's time for dinner." Jade looked at the TV screen out of the corner of her eye. The man on the sofa was pulling up his shirt, revealing abs nearly as nice as Dario's. "Can we watch something else?" she asked. She felt uncomfortable, sitting on Dario's lap while the couple on TV began to have sex. Dario held her tightly in his arms. His voice was low and hoarse. "I don't care about dinner. I want you." Jade's mouth was dry. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to say my name. Otherwise, I won't let you go." Dario raised his eyebrows slightly, his eyes burning with passion. Jade wanted to open her mouth, but she could not say it. It felt too intimate to say to him. "Are you not going to say it? Do you really want me to hold you here forever?" Dario moved his lips closer as he spoke, as if to kiss her. Jade's heart kept beating. She tried to open her mouth again. "Mr. Foster," she said. I can't say it." She shyly covered her face. Dario had a disappointed look. "All right, I understand what you mean." Jade was stunned for a moment. She thought he would kiss her forcefully as usual, but this time, he did not. He put her down and went back into the kitchen. Jade sat on the sofa and pursed her lips. She felt a little disappointed. She looked uneasily at Dario in the kitchen, waiting to see his expression, but as usual, she couldn't detect any emotion on his face. She didn't know if he was angry. "Come and eat," Dario said. "I'm coming." When Jade arrived, she found the table all set. She did not need to do anything. When she sat down, Dario lowered his head and started to eat the soup without saying a word. He had just said that he understood. What did he mean? Did he really understand? Did he misunderstand something? She wanted to explain, but she didn't know how. She was used to calling him Mr. Foster. Would it really be like what Nurse Mason said? If she kept calling him that, would they stay distant from each other? Would he mind it? He always called her Jade. If she called him Mr. Foster, did this show an imbalance in their relationship? After dinner, Jade was about to clean up the dishes when Dario began to do it instead. He said lightly, "You go and rest." "Mr. Foster, let me wash the dishes." You should be tired after cooking." Jade had just finished speaking when she saw Dario's determined look. She knew she could not stop him from doing what he wanted to do. She could only go to the living room to watch TV. About half an hour later, Dario finished cleaning up. He went to the study without saying a word. Jade sat alone in the hall. Jade looked at the tightly shut door of the study room. Her heart was unhappy. The TV was still on, but she didn't know what was playing. She sat for a while and sighed. She chose a conservative nightgown, took a bath, and studied her lines while sitting on the bed. It was already 10 o'clock, but Dario had not come back. She felt like Dario did not want to bother with her recently. When she was away, she always sent him messages, but he rarely sent her any. He had only visited once, and she didn't know any of what he'd been up to. He didn't care about her feelings at all. Episode 140. Help me take off my clothes. Even when he ate, he was so cold. When she thought about these things, she felt very uncomfortable. Jade angrily tossed aside the script in her hands and said to herself, "I don't want to think about these things. I want to sleep." But when she turned off the lights and lay on the bed, trying to close her eyes, she found that she could not sleep no matter what. She touched the cold and empty bedsheet beside her, feeling a sense of loss. Could it be that she could not sleep without him? Impossible, she thought. It must be because she woke up too late this morning. It couldn't be that she wasn't able to sleep without Dario by her side. When she was in the crew, she was able to sleep alone. But even when she closed her eyes and lay there for 2 hours, she still did not fall asleep. And Dario didn't come back either. She angrily lifted the blanket and said to herself, "Jade Winslet, you are really useless." However, she was conflicted in her heart. She turned on the light again and carefully walked towards the study. She had thought that Dario had locked the door, but he couldn't have. It was still slightly open. She just couldn't see it clearly when she was in the hall before. She hesitatingly pushed the door open and carefully stuck her head in to take a look. Dario was staring intently at the computer screen. He changed into casual clothes, and he looked more approachable. He would have already taken a shower. Jade could see that he was busy, and she decided to leave quietly. But before she could, Dario stopped what he was doing and turned to see her peeking at him from the door. "It's midnight. Don't you want to sleep?" Dario asked calmly. Jade stood at the door in a daze. She'd been caught. She hesitated, unsure whether she should tell the truth, but then Dario smiled at her. "Do you want me to sleep next to you?" He knew what she really thought. Jade blushed instantly, anxiously explaining, "No, I've been sleeping for a while. I just got up to use the restroom and saw you." "Anything else?" Dario asked directly, as if reading her mind. Jade frowned slightly, pulling at her pajamas. She did not know what to say. Actually, what she really wanted was to ask why he had been so cold to her recently. Did he no longer like her? But standing in front of him, she found she couldn't say anything at all. If she asked him something like that, wouldn't it mean she cared about his feelings toward her? Didn't they agree that they were husband and wife in name only? He had just needed a good-looking wife. What had been going on with her recently? Why did she care about him more and more? She found she really wanted to be with him. No, nothing else. I just wanted to see if you were done with your work." "If you have something to say, say it," Dario said firmly. He obviously knew there was something more. "I just want to ask a question." Jade lowered her head. She looked very hesitant. Dario's face stayed calm, as if everything she did was under his control. "Wait for me for just a second." Dario finished his work as fast as he could. He turned off the computer and the light in the study. Then he walked over to Jade, who was still standing at the door. He frowned, scolding her. "How many times have I told you to wear slippers? If you continue like this, I will break your legs." He suddenly picked her up. "Mr. Foster, what are you doing?" Afraid that she might fall, Jade reached out to hug Dario's neck. The two of them were suddenly very close. "Didn't you want to ask a question? Let's go to bed first." Dario calmly carried her back to the bedroom. Jade looked at him in surprise. She heard how direct he was and instantly became speechless. She thought that what he said about going to bed must only mean lying down on it. He shouldn't mean anything else. But speaking like that, it was very easy to make someone think otherwise. Yesterday, he'd been like that too. She even told him that it was her first time making love. But in the end, he didn't have that much intention at all. He'd only wanted to give a massage because she worried too much. She didn't know why. She really hated feeling like this. Dario carefully carried Jade to the bed and then held her hand to his pants. Jade didn't know what he meant by that. She blinked and naively asked, "Mr. Foster, what do you want?" "I want to make love to you." Dario said plainly. Jade was so scared that she immediately pulled her hand back. He was too forward. She could not help but think of the first time she met him in the bar. It was as if he had said the same thing. "Mr. Foster, can you stop talking like that? I'm going to sleep. Good night." Jade immediately hid under the blanket and wrapped herself tightly, as if she was afraid that he would grab her. "I'm joking with you. Help me take off my clothes," Dario said in a relaxed manner. However, his expression was very serious. It did not seem like he had been joking. As he spoke, he reached for her hand and pulled it out again. Jade looked at him shyly. She did not dare look into his eyes. She rejected him decisively. "Mr. Foster, you have your own hands. Why don't you take off your own clothes?" "If you don't take off my clothes, you won't be able to sleep." Dario emphasized the word sleep. Jade was a little embarrassed. She knew he was saying these words on purpose. He wanted to tease her, so she would be even more dissatisfied. "Mr. Foster, you are too bad." Jade stared at him angrily. He always bullied her because of his strength. She could not resist at all. "I'm not a bad person. Our marriage certificate is still in the drawer. It's very normal for a wife to help a husband take off his clothes." Dario narrowed his eyes and reached for her hand again, but Jade did not want to do it at all. "If you want to sleep, do as I say first. Be obedient," Dario said gently. He wanted to lure her into a trap step by step. Jade gave up resisting. No matter what, he always had a way to make her listen to him. Even if she did not help him take off his clothes now, he would still think of other ways to deal with her. Jade gritted her teeth and took the initiative to stretch her hand towards his shirt. In her heart, wanting to help him take off his clothes was a simple matter. She would settle it quickly.